Hello there, and welcome to the Folk My Life podcast. Every week we'll be sitting down for a chat with some of our favourite artists and musicians from the Folk My Life playlist. If you haven't subscribed to our weekly playlist yet, you can look us up and follow the playlist on Spotify or on Deezer, YouTube, or just on our website. And each week there's a whole new gorgeous folky playlist for you to enjoy. We love sharing music, so if there's things that you'd like to share with us, please send us a direct message or email us at playlist@folkmylife.co.uk. My guest this week is originally from Dorset and now resides in Cambridge. She was classically trained at Cambridge University. She's one of the most emotionally accessible, open and inspiring musicians that I've ever come across. I've heard her described before as Queen of the Loop Station. I've heard her music described as breathtaking, beautiful and perfect. She started her musical career by apparently singing to ducklings and took up playing guitar at the age of 10. She wrote her first songs a couple of years later, although she openly admits none of those were worth recording. But I'm pleased to say that she is recording her music now, and it's brilliant. I sometimes find myself slightly embarrassed when I listen to her music because it feels like I've accidentally tuned right into her heart. Rachel Hill, welcome to the Folk My Life podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's so good for you to give us the time to be here, and I'm so grateful for you joining us for a chat. Singing to ducklings, I think we've got to start there.
Probably, yes. No, I was actually back home. Well, I still call it home. It's embarrassing, isn't it, once you become an adult and then you're supposed to have your own home. But I still call my parents' house home because we have moved house several times, and the ducklings that you described were actually up in Nottinghamshire when we were there. We've since moved to Dorset, and they had their ducks on the pond for the first time. It was the first time that ducks had graced their new pond. And so, yeah, it took me back to the excitement of having ducklings every year and getting to have a new audience of little feathered friends.
I really like the idea of your first audiences as a singer were basically just singing to ducklings all day. That's such a
Yeah.
It's just such a lovely image of where a folk musician would start. That's just brilliant.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an influence of Disney, kind of subliminal messaging of if you sing to wildlife, it'll come to you. I think it's in spite of singing to it, to be honest, but it was a nice thing to have in my head when I was younger.
When did you first actually start kind of writing things specifically and learning to play them? Because the early part of your career is sort of a mixture of choral singing, learning to play guitar. How did it all sort of come together to begin with?
It was all at primary school, pretty much. So I think I just turned 8. And the new school that I went to, there was just so many extracurricular things on offer, which I know isn't the case for everyone. And now that I'm teaching myself and doing a little bit of that, it's really special to see which schools offer all of that support and all of the extra things that should be available to everyone. So yeah, there was this teacher called Mrs. Finch. She was the guitar teacher, and it was taught in a group setting. I think there were about 10 of us that would get to primary school a little bit early, just sit around and, practice just strumming and doing our 4 chords and then maybe some fingerstyle if we got that far. And that was where the singing and guitar kind of took off. So that was definitely my entry into it. I think it took me until about 12, so maybe 4 years into that journey of still sticking with guitar just as an accompaniment instrument. That's all it's ever really been for me. I then started trying to write about anything, but obviously when you're 12, not much has happened in your life that's worth writing about. So I honestly just wrote about birds, pretty much. Like I would try and make it into these stories that were very heartfelt. I remember my dad being a bit worried because they were all quite kind of sad songs. But there was always a bird somewhere in there. I think it was a blackbird at one stage. There was definitely a robin. It was Song of Summer was the first one ever, and that had a robin in it. So yeah, that's still woven its way into the songs today, I think.
That's a pretty classic folk beginning, though, to be fair. Writing particularly sad songs about birds. I mean, there are people still making a career out of that today, so that's a pretty good base to start from, I guess. In terms of you forming as a musician, and I've said, and we'll talk about it later, hopefully, just how emotionally accessible you are. It sounds like a lot of your lyrics and songs come from really deep inside you. They're really personal to you. Is that, I don't mean to say deliberate, but is that something that you specifically strive to do, or is that just sort of a natural response to wanting to create and where it comes from?
Oh, that is a good question. I think there was definitely a turning point for me when I went to London to do a master's in songwriting and production in 2022, and that was a shift where we were suddenly asked to write songs every week, and the turnaround was so quick that I suddenly thought I don't have enough going on life-wise. I'm not sure anybody does, to kind of base it purely on what's happening right now. So that was the point where I suddenly saw it from a more maybe commercial side, to put it bluntly, of, you know, sometimes you do have to draw on other people's experiences or films you've seen or things like that. But definitely up to that point, it had always come from a place of, I'm going to use this to just see where my subconscious is right now. It's never, well, maybe occasionally it's been, I want to sit down and process something, but it's more, oh, I'm feeling the mental space to create something today. I'm going to sit down with my guitar or follow this lyric idea that came to me on my bike or in the car or in the shower, and just see where that goes. Because, yeah, those are the kind of three places that it always seems to come to me. I should do more cycling these days.
Is that a good place to write? Just
it is. I was, cycling all the time in London, like to and from lectures and everywhere else, and I just came up with so many ideas, and now my bike's been sat in the garden for about 6 months, and maybe that's why I'm in a lull. Who knows?
One of the only people that's gone the other way, gone from London to Cambridge and cycled less. I think if you want to get anywhere in Cambridge, you're probably on two wheels is fair enough. 2020 seemed like a really formative year for you. Was it 2020 was your first gig at the Portland Arms, is that right?
Yes, it was the EP launch. So obviously just before the pandemic hit. So that was in January, I think, around
Great
then.
Time to start a career.
Yeah. It was ridiculous, really, because I had my finals coming up at Cambridge as well, and definitely did not have the time, and neither did the band that I tried to scrabble together on the night. No, I think we had about 2 weeks of rehearsing together, but I've never tried to perform with a band again since, because it was just so hard to get people in a room, and that was when we were students. I think I had rushed through it so much. There were so many learning curves in recording that EP. I mean, it was all students that had come together to help me record it. I think it had been recorded in its entirety over 3 weeks, which now I look back on and think that's probably, you can probably hear that fact. I'm constantly debating with myself whether to take it down from Spotify, because it is, I hope that people think it's definitely a different quality to what I do now. But in some ways, I think people that stay with my profile long enough to search all the way back for that first EP, hopefully kind of go on the journey with me. But yeah, I know the algorithm sometimes just shoves whatever it wants in your face, so I hope it doesn't put too many people off at the same time.
No, I mean, it's a great EP, and I wouldn't have guessed until you just said that it was recorded in a rush and under duress by the sounds of it. But there's a rawness to it which I really like, and I think maybe that process of sort of getting it out and getting it done and building up to the Portland Arms, maybe that was a stress that you had to go through to kind of get started. People often say you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And I think that just getting that out and getting over that hurdle and getting the Portland Arms show out of the way almost to kind of launch things for you, the story from there has just gone from strength to strength, and your music just seems to have grown, not just musically, I think, but emotionally too. I really hope people do spend some time working their way through your back catalogue. I think they'll kind of see that journey. It feels like your life is kind of unfolding in the music, which is gorgeous, especially because, can I mention him? Luke appears quite a bit. And that feels like a thread that sort of, was that 2020 that sort of came about as well? Or have I attributed everything together?
Oh gosh, I'm going to get this wrong. It's going to be embarrassing. 2018 is when we first got together, but I recorded the EP in March 2019. So it would have been quite fresh still then, and that's when we were going into the songs. But yeah, the EP is called Through Rain or Snow, and that was the first one, the first love song that I wrote for him. There are a couple of others that if you want to have the whole backstory of how I asked him out, that was at an open mic in Cambridge, and it was so funny because we've just got married, and now our best man Toby had come from Germany to study at Cambridge for his masters that year, and he kind of accidentally self-invited himself to that open mic where I was hoping to. It almost sounds like a proposal, doesn't it? It was actually just to try and sing a song to him so that he knew that he was special to me, and that would be my way of kind of saying, I like you. But it was so funny that Toby was there as well, kind of third-wheeling us unintentionally. So I didn't end up, saying down the mic, this is written for somebody special, but I did perform the song, and I think Luke did kind of twig it. So that was nice.
It could have been kind of awkward if they were both sitting in the audience and you said that and they were sort of looking at each other going, well, is it you or is it me? There is still a video of that night knocking around. Something I like to do occasionally is just have a whiz through the hashtags people are using when they post things on Instagram, because they're like little windows into what people are thinking. Mm-hmm. And you posted a hashtag just before that gig at the Portland Arms, and you included the hashtag sass.
Oh, gosh.
And I was thinking about the word sass, which is your post, not mine. I was thinking about the word sass as you were doing that video, and noticed something which I don't think many people will notice. There's a cheeky line in the version you did of You've Lost Me, which is a brilliant, brilliant song. And I want to unpick that song a little bit because it's from an early album and I really like it.
You've done your digging.
But you added a line in that song which got this glorious response from the audience. And if I'm honest, and I don't mean to be rude, but you looked a little bit nervous until you looked straight into the face of the audience and said, good luck with the degree.
Yeah.
And the response was electrifying because you just exploded with this huge beaming smile and everybody responded really well to it. But you dropped that line in the released version, and I'm interested to know if you would tell us that story.
Oh gosh, Luke's gonna hate me. No,
who is gonna hate you?
Luke.
Oh no, is it a Luke thing?
No, it's actually funny. I think he's fine with it now, but it was definitely touch and go at the start with that song. So our relationship obviously has a happy ending because we're now married.
Yes.
But it had the bumpiest 6 months at the start that I've ever heard of any relationship. Just kind of, we had all of our, not arguments, but I think there's just so much to find out about the other person in any relationship. And I think from my observations, most people leave those until at least the second year to have those huge chats like, do you want kids? What's your, this is getting into a therapy session, but all of your priorities. And it was just really important to both of us because we have such different backgrounds in many ways that we got everything straight, and it seemed like that wasn't going to be achievable for quite a while. And obviously with the stress of both trying to do degrees at Cambridge at the same time, I was really struggling with my course and just emotionally and all the rest of it. So that song actually got added last minute to the EP because I was suddenly basically writing it to Luke saying, kind of make up your mind and let me know if you want to be with me or not. And this is the song called You've Lost Me, which is now hilarious to look back on. And I have not thought about that song in at least 2 years.
Well,
it's hilarious sorry that it's still there.
I'm so sorry to confront you with it, but it just... the reason I did and the reason I picked on it specifically is because this whole thread of your relationship with Luke, and I know this is your podcast and it's our chat, but he features so heavily and so strongly. And when I say you're emotionally accessible, and when I get embarrassed when I listen to your music sometimes, because I do genuinely feel like we're hearing something that's more personal than it ought to be. Does that in a nice way, but in a slightly awkward, like you haven't hung up the phone and you're listening to someone's conversation kind of way. It's intriguing and it's exciting and slightly naughty in a way to kind of, especially songs like Peaches and Cigars. I mean, how does Luke feel about a song like Peaches and Cigars? Because I feel like I know how it feels to kiss Luke, which is very strange.
Well, the curveball is that that's actually not written about him.
Oh,
that
no, does he know?
No, he does. Yeah, it's actually written about a friend's relationship. But yeah, that's one of the examples where I've kind of stolen from someone else's life. So yeah, although Luke does have a beard, so I see where the connection might have got in with that.
I may have completely misunderstood that, in which case, which is fine. I want to talk about the loop station because people describe you as queen of the loop station and they're genuinely not wrong. I've seen you a couple of times live and you're so skilled with the loop station that it's actually kind of hard to notice that you're using it sometimes. When I saw you in Cambridge, it was sort of halfway through the song that I realised that some of these earlier vocal loops that you've already dropped are now starting to kind of build up in the song. And it sounds a little bit like a backing track almost coming out of nowhere. It's genuinely enchanting to watch. When did you actually start using the loop station?
I think that was January 2022. I think it was when I was already doing the Masters in London. Okay. I think I got it during lockdown and I hadn't really made the connection that I couldn't sing with anyone else during COVID, so I could create my own choir. But it's kind of, maybe it was a bit of that subconsciously. So it's basically just a chance for me to build up harmonies layer upon layer. But it does mean that if something goes wrong, then it all goes wrong. So that has occasionally happened in rehearsal. Nothing too bad yet on stage, but I'm sure there will be before too long.
I think what I like about the way that you use it is you almost use it like an instrument rather than some technical curiosity. It's quite easy to see people who use a loop station. I mean, there's some pretty famous loop station artists out there, but not many people like you who kind of introduce the loop station almost really seamlessly to what you're doing. And it's really interesting to see you do that live because it really is seamless. Did you kind of change your writing style to work with the loop station, or can you kind of see when you started thinking about the loop station when you were creating music?
I don't know. I have definitely come to think, I know the loop station goes down well live, so how can I shape this song? And there are definitely some songs that I really like as singles and as records that I've released, but I don't feel lend themselves as well to live situations because they don't really leave space for the loop pedal. And I think I'm always at the risk of overstepping the line where less is more, because it's the reality of using a loop station that you can't go into a new section, for example, and start layering again, because you'd have to kind of wipe what you've already done. I need to kind of layer it layer by layer, which is great when somebody hasn't heard that before, or where it happens a few times and maybe mid-piece on one, or you layer it from the beginning on another. So I think it's good to have some songs that just shine by themselves and then some that are really heavily dependent on the loop station. So I'm trying to keep the mix in there, and that's why I've just got a stomp pedal as well to kind of give it another dimension and add other things in. But I'm very new to that.
So yeah, if you've got your loop station to hand, would you mind sort of showing us how you use it?
Absolutely. So it's by my feet. I only use one foot. It's normally my left. If I tried to use the other one, I think it would all collapse. So it's so ingrained now. But I essentially press it once and it starts recording the loop. I press it again to tell it when to stop, but there's no pause before the next layer then starts. So as soon as I press it to stop one, it means I'm straight in with the next layer. So that's where it sometimes catches me out. But I'll give you a short example of a piece called We Move. So that's the only a cappella only piece I've written yet. I want to follow it up with another one, but I'll just get my note. I've got this little tuning wheel for anybody that's seen Pitch Perfect before. You'll know how they sound, but here we go. Well, I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. A soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes, and I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. So I've now clicked it off, which means that I can talk over it or sing anything else and it won't record. But that's still going. And I've just put the clicks in, so if I take them out, that's just my live hands. So that's the loop we've got. And then if I wanted to add another layer in, maybe we've got to the next chorus, it would sound like this. I live a life on a fraying shoestring, not only to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, but your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one. And as you heard, if I pause it with my foot, which is the other pedal, so that sometimes throws me. If I get the words wrong, then they're wrong every layer. So you heard a little bit of that as well. But I'll do the full thing if you like in a second.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Would you do it? I
will. Let me turn the reverb up so that it sounds a little bit more polished.
It's sounding so good. That's really... Thank you for breaking it down a bit, because it's sometimes kind of hard to understand kind of exactly what's going on behind the scenes there. So yeah. I can't wait to see it all as one. Okay, I'm going to take my headphones off and then we'll go straight into it.
Well, I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. And I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just a one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just a one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may we move, at least I'm moving. We move, we move, we move, we move. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. We move, best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I made a life on a fraying shoestring. Now I need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No matter, best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I made a life on a fraying shoestring. Now I need to worry about the days to come. Oh no, no map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. Well, I may be lost, but at least I'm moving. I live a life on a fraying shoestring. I don't need to worry about the days to come. Today's just one, put your bravest face on. No map, but my best foot forward. The soundtrack is my homemade chorus. I don't need to worry about the way it lands. Best laid plans fall through sometimes. And we move, we move, we move, we move, we move, we move.
Wow, my goodness. That's incredible. I've got goosebumps. Thank you so much for doing that, Rachel. That's really, really special.
Thank you.
Technology in folk clubs. There's some purists out there, right, who probably expect people to turn up with a guitar and that's it. How do you feel turning up at a folk club with a bunch of tech?
It does go down in different ways in different places. I think I definitely get both sides, because in some ways it's the most folky thing that I do, because it allows me to do a cappella things and layer things up, and that's kind of the essence of folk music for me, is just hearing the harmonies and how they weave together and putting a little bit of reverb on so that it sounds like you're kind of singing to people in a cave, like you might have done centuries whatever ago. But at the same time, I do understand that they want to keep the tradition alive of it's just whatever you can create with your mouth alone, or an instrument as well. So I just have to tailor my set to the different places. But I think I would struggle to do a headline show that I would feel I'm showing myself off and my songs off the best way if they didn't allow you to use amplification.
I genuinely love it, and I think that as a tradition, if you try and keep things the same, just doesn't work. It needs to grow and it needs to evolve, and it just seems with you just so empowering to be able to bring more of yourself to a performance. And have you toured with your stomp paddle as well now? Are you there? Because that's a digital stomp, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I haven't taken it on a tour yet, but I have done a few gigs with it, and it's definitely coming with me to all the festivals this summer, because I think that's where it really shines, on a festival stage. The first time I used it was actually at Purbeck Valley Folk Festival last summer, and that was a huge hay bale filled barn. That was all the seating. It was incredible. And
Amazing.
that was the first time I heard it, basically, because you can try and practice with it at home through your tiny speaker, but if there's no bass at all in the speaker you're using and you're trying to work with a stomp, it's kind of like a tin can being beaten in the corner.
Do you think that generally technology has helped develop your musical style as well, or is it a means to an end, or is it something that you kind of feel yourself actually thinking in terms of what you can do with the technology when you create music? Because that's genuinely what I love about the new contemporary folk scene, is that all of these things are kind of there as tools to create on.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely coming round to using it more and more, and I'm a little bit of a technophobe deep down, so trying to get over that hurdle has taken a while. The thing that really interested me when I first moved to London and did the Masters, coming from an undergraduate degree at Cambridge, where you still had to hand in scores and things on and bind them and all that. So it was kind of quite steeped in the past in a lot of ways, and we weren't encouraged to use anything like Logic. I hadn't even used a Mac before, and I suddenly got a MacBook Pro, and everyone else was asking questions about how to use Logic and the software, and I couldn't even find the on button. That's a true story. We had to use these fancy laptops in the studio room, and I just couldn't find the on button. But the one thing that slightly scared me, that's taken a while to get to terms with, is when you come from a classical background and a live performing background, it's really hard to keep the essence of a live performance and also come to terms with the fact that the acceptable standard for songs on radio and streaming platforms as well is so much higher now, because you can just edit it almost to death with everything that you release. If there's a phrase that I can't sing live, and I know that I'm never going to be able to do in a live setting because it's basically edited with the software to disguise your breath and make it seem like you can do all these amazing things, then I probably won't put it in, because I'm definitely the sort of person that likes to write to know that I'll perform the songs rather than just recording. And that's why I'm trying to steer away a little bit from social media. I do use it and it is a good tool, but I am a bit worried of becoming someone who only serves that space. I much rather perform live, and it is hard to do that. But I think that's where my focus is. So I'm trying to use technology live because I think it really helps, and it does bring more to your sound, especially if you're a soloist. It can just beef up everything so much more and reduces the need for a band at the moment. But yeah, it does scare me sometimes with the studio side of things, just how far from reality it can take you.
I think that's really interesting, and I like. Actually, it flips my original thought on its head a little bit, because it feels now, rather than being restricted by the technology, it's the other way around, that you're restricting the technology by what you can actually achieve publicly. And that's a really nice way to think of it, is actually making sure that what you do with the technology is something that is translatable to a live space. We could sort of flip this on its head as well and go completely the other way and strip all of this away. Tell me about busking.
Busking.
I'm interested to know why and what you and what you get from it, because I know a lot of people do it and it's interesting to me.
Yes, I haven't done it as much recently. I did do it when I went to visit my parents. I have a very flexible life, which is great because I'm fully self-employed and I do contractual work and I do freelance teaching, but I am able to go, for example, back to Dorset for a week at a time, which is definitely a luxury. In that case, I want to show that I'm still there, because I have grand schemes of maybe moving back there one day, and I want to slightly keep my finger on the pulse, just showing my face. But it is also a case of I'm literally not earning anything this week because I've just moved away from teaching. It might be in the school holidays, or I've just started leading loads of choirs and I don't do those in the holidays and things like that. So it's occasionally as crass as just, hopefully this will be a way to earn money. But beyond that, I would encourage people to busk for several reasons, and more than just the money that you might receive on the day, it's actually just the contacts. I've had so many things come out of it. I've sung at weddings and christenings, I've sung in pubs, people just take my card and things like that. But also I've worked on whole songs just because somebody has met me in the street and has liked what they hear, and then they get in touch with me. So it's really more about the networking side of it. I definitely have done it less since I've built up my own career and slightly more stable finances than when I first moved to Cambridge and was busking pretty much every week. Cambridge has such a high footfall as well. It was just a really good place to get heard by a lot more people and more of a varied group of people as well. So that's really good. And then it just keeps you ticking over as well. If it goes wrong in the street, it doesn't really matter. You can just start it again. You've got a new load of people walking by. So it's really helpful. And I know I have had a couple of people in the industry say, if you still post about the fact you're busking, it seems like you're not doing well. And it seems as if, people might take you less seriously because you're not posting about whatever else. But I am kind of doing all the things. And the fact that I'm still doing that as well, if somebody has followed me because they've seen me busking, they know that I'm the right person.
Some of my favourite musicians I've come across through busking. There was a crowd I saw busking in Cambridge, must be 10 years ago now, called Isambard's Wheel. And they just set themselves up outside King's and, with drums and everything. And they were just bashing it out. And I've been in love with them ever since. It is a nice way to connect with people. And it's quite honest when people see that that's what you're doing or that they see it on your socials and things. I tend to disagree with the comments you've had about the fact that you shouldn't be seen to be doing that, because I genuinely think it's lovely to see, and it shows that you're honest and raw and real, and I really like that. So, did I read that you're touring Germany soon? Is that coming up?
I am. It was thrown into a bit of confusion because I was planning to do a 5-week tour, which would have been the biggest one yet, and then at the Cambridge Bands competition, I got the acoustic award, which guarantees me a slot at Camp Festival, which has been on my bucket list for years. So I suddenly thought, oh gosh, I'm supposed to be in the middle of Germany then. And so I've decided to just cut the tour a little bit shorter this time. And I'm still trying to rearrange a couple of dates for that to see when I'll be going out. But yes, essentially the second half of August, I'll be in Germany again, which will be really lovely.
And coming back for Festival.
Yeah.
That is exciting. That's a homecoming for you too, right?
It is, yeah. It's in the Lulworth estate, which is where I've definitely shot at least 2 music videos by now because it's so close to my parents and it's just gorgeous. It's one of the loveliest parts of the UK, in my opinion. Yeah. What
an amazing opportunity to be playing there. And congratulations, by the way, on picking up the award for Best Acoustic Act 2025.
Thank you, yeah.
Well deserved. And I saw you play that night in Cambridge, and I'm seeing you again soon. And it's always amazing to see you perform live. It really is something that if people get the opportunity to see you, I really want to encourage people to engage with your website. Can you tell us what that is?
Yep, that is www.rachelhillmusic.com.
I really want to encourage people to look at your catalogue and look at your diary to see if they can find a space to see you, because it really is an amazing show to see live. It's really special, and I hope that people do see it. Can people get you to do a house concert?
Oh, yes. In fact, in 2026, I would love to say 2025, but probably 2026, I have 2 big things on the table for me. This is the first time I'm going to announce it, I would love to release my next album, a full-length album, which needs a lot of work if that's going to happen, but I believe in it. And I have a very lovely producer who has just sent me over some dates yesterday, so that's great. And I would love to do another UK tour. I haven't done that since 2022, which is far too long. Wow. And that was mostly house concerts. So to be quite honest, I think in this day and age, just in terms of accommodation costs and the actual costs of touring to places where you have to guarantee a certain level of ticket sales and all the rest of it, it's just not really financially doable unless you win a grant, which is why I started doing Germany in the first place, because I got a grant from Help Musicians, which was really transformative. So I would love to do some house concerts, and it has been on my to-do list. I currently do that with Germany. That's why I'm able to go each summer off the back of that grant for the first year. This will be the 3rd time I go out this summer, so I'm actually doing German lessons right now to try and be at least able to talk to people. But they're amazing at English, so it's not too much of a stress. But it's just lovely. It's so nice to just be welcomed into people's homes, usually stay with them, or at least, share a meal with them or something, and then perform for all of their friends and family and whoever else is interested. And then dot it around with a few public performances, often in churches or other community spaces. But house concerts are just something else. They're very special atmosphere.
I bring it up because it's such a great way to engage with musicians, and I genuinely love a house concert. There's a couple I've been to recently which are even more intimate than a folk club. They're even more personal, and if you're up for doing them and people can engage with you about doing them, how would they go about doing that?
Just get in contact. I've got the contact page on the website, or my email is info@rachelhillmusic.com. I'd always love to hear from people. I don't know whether to do it kind of county by county going forward, or whether to try and do a full UK one. It will depend on what 2026 looks like by the time we get there. But I might even be able to do a short one, like over the southwest, for example, before then. So, yeah.
Well, there's always a garden here in Suffolk if you want to come and play here. So
thanks.
I'll email you separately via the website and try and book you to come and play next to my pond. And I'll even bring in some ducklings for you.
I was going to say, are there any ducks? Oh.
No, but we can bust them in just for you. If you put ducklings on your rider, we'll make it happen. So
thank you.
So it's exciting you're touring Germany. I am very excited to hear that you're working on a new album. I won't press you for dates on that, but I think perhaps what we should do is when you've got your new album ready, we should invite you back on the podcast and you can sing We Move in German. And,
oh, gosh.
and that's what we should do. But before I let you go, thank you so much for spending some time with us and for talking to us. It's genuinely been amazing to talk to you. I'm going to ask you for some song suggestions, and I would like first, if you can, 2 songs from your back catalogue that are particularly special to you that you'd like to share with people, or you think should get more attention than perhaps they do.
I think there's one song that I've released twice, which is the song Through Rain or Snow, which was on the original EP. I thought I could do a better version, so I re-recorded it, and now, ironically, I perform it completely different live again. So there are kind of 3 versions, and I'm not sure I'll go through releasing the third one, but that's just a really special song to me. It was the first one that I wrote for Luke. So that one's just from a personal and deep place. And the other one is actually called Plain Daylight. It's from Words Left Unsaid, which was my debut album. And there are always some that just kind of, I'm glad you know it. There are always some that just kind of slip through the net and you never quite know why. And there are obviously some singles within the album that you release early and that you push more. And it is also, I think, quite short. I think it's even under 2 minutes, which meant that lots of playlist curators wouldn't touch it, which I didn't realise, so that's another learning curve. But it's another one that's completely a cappella, but it's not one that I could perform live a cappella because it has different words going through the whole thing. So as you would have heard from my little explainer with the loop earlier, you have to repeat the same thing, which if it's oohs and ahs, that's fine. But if you're trying to tell a story, it doesn't quite work. You'd be telling the same story over and over again.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Which of the 2 versions of Through the Rain and Snow are we including?
I think the more recent one.
Okay.
I brought it down a few keys in my old age. My voice is getting a bit lower, I think, and that's the thing that kind of rings out to me about the first EP is it's so high. I don't know if you noticed that, but my voice, I'm just kind of in the clouds the whole time. So that must have been coming from my soprano days and not quite realising I had a whole different voice to play with. But I tried to meet it in the middle with the re-release of Through Rain or Snow.
Maybe we'll put both on the list and ask for votes.
Maybe
that would be traumatizing for both of us. But and can you choose 2 songs not by you, but that are particularly special to you? Something that we can put on the list that kind of tells us what you listen to in the bath or on the bike. What are you putting on your list from someone else?
I absolutely love Lizzie McAlpine's song "Erase Me," which is also a kind of duet, well, it at least features Jacob Collier, who is a massive inspiration, especially with my loop pedal. I saw him live in London a couple of years ago, and that was amazing. But yeah, he came to it through YouTube and building up loads of layers of a cappella singing and just using his voice as an instrument to the nth degree. So that's a really exciting collaboration and an amazing song.
That is a gorgeous choice. And you're sorry, I'm really excited. I want to listen to it. And your second choice?
Second choice of song is Paris Paloma Notre Dame.
So
I really love her stuff. It's how I would like to be. She has a beautiful voice and it's very calming and ethereal, but all of her messages are quite poignant and quite feminist underlying that as well. But Notre Dame is written ironically from the perspective of a dove or a pigeon, which is I think what Paloma means in Spanish. Got that little nugget of info from Luke. and it's just written of this bird kind of looking down at everyone below, but it finishes with the most amazing loop, basically, of different voices that are supposed to be the bells, I think, in the cathedral. So, it's just amazing. Kind of bathe in that sound by the end.
That's, two brilliant choices. And with your second choice specifically, and you can draw a direct line acoustically between you both. So, especially with the bird reference, brings you right back to your early songwriting, which is another ethereal, high octave song about birds, is a wonderful full circle choice. I think it's inspired. I always ask people at the end of the podcast as well, have you got a folk my life moment? These are moments where you just put your head in your hands and say, folk my life.
Yeah, there was definitely, it's even more embarrassing that this has happened in 2 different gigs. So there's one song that's called Quarter Life Crisis.
Oh my gosh, a double folk my life moment. This is a
double
first.
One, yeah. So both times, because I've been different ages, both times I've performed that. So one of the key phrases in the song is, you qualify for respite care from 55 and over, which is a direct quote from the back of a bus that I was on my bike, another one inspired, writing on my bike in London, sat behind this advert and having a bit of a quarter life crisis. So that's how it came about as a song. But I always give that little introduction. For some reason, in my head, when I was 23, I suddenly thought, I'm halfway to 55. I don't know what went wrong with the maths, but it then happened again. Like I suddenly realised on stage that I'd just made a complete error, and then we all laughed about it, and I still couldn't quite work out what had gone wrong, but I kind of tried to think about it on the way home and do the maths properly. And then I did exactly the same thing at another gig, because I thought that I'd suddenly got to 55, not 55, got to halfway to 55, and I still hadn't. So yeah, I'm still not even there, but there we go. One day I will be, and then I'll make sure I get the joke right.
No, I think but that's perfect. And the fact that you did it twice is wonderful, because it's the second time, which is a fully folk my life moment.
Yeah, and there were definitely people that were in both audiences as well. So it was
that's even better. Oh my God, she's at it again.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your folk my life moment. So it's incredibly honest of you, and I really appreciate you doing that. And thank you so much for spending the time with us. As I say, can we get a website, a second plug, just so that people know how to find your tour dates, how to find your music? Definitely encourage people to buy music direct from you, especially at a show. Even if you haven't got a CD player, buy a CD, take it home, look at it as you listen to music online, because it really, really helps. So where can people do that, Rachel?
So the website is www.rachelhillmusic.com.
That's brilliant. I'll make sure that we share that with stuff. And make sure you get in touch with Rachel. Try and book her to come and play in your garden, or catch her on tour somewhere live. And thank you once again for spending some time with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
So there we have it. That's another podcast episode wrapped up. Thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you for listening. Please check out Rachel Hill's back catalogue. Look her up online. Try and book her for a gig. Go and see her somewhere. But whatever you do, check out some of our other podcasts. We've got so many amazing conversations with awesome musicians to share with you. So like us, follow us, look us up on Instagram, look us up on Spotify, wherever you get your music. Please check us out. Give us a follow, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.